You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey, welcome back to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. I'm your host, Mighty Blue, better known locally as Steve Adams. And today, we're kind of back to normal. Just before I tell you the lineup today, I wanted to thank you all for the kind words that I received for the 300th show last week. I took a bit of a gamble. The editing was pretty difficult, but you all seemed to get a kick out of it. So thanks for letting me know that you enjoyed it. It was our fastest ever downloaded show with 1,000 downloads before lunch on the first day. And really, that's less than 9 hours. 2,000 by the end of the second day, and now, well, Wednesday and 6 days in, because I'm recording now, it is almost 3,000 downloads. That's very fast for us. So thanks. In the future, I may well add in another similar show with past guests coming on and talking with me for 7 or 8 minutes and telling me one thing. I'm not sure what the subject of that thing is, but I kind of like that format. But as I said before, we're back into our usual routine today with another terrific guest, Rita Walton of Fire Goddess, who fulfilled, or virtually fulfilled, her dreams since she was 13 of through hiking the Appalachian Trail. Rita will be on in a moment. Then our class of 2022 continues to fill out, with Barry Hill, who I actually met and interviewed at our Woods Hole retreat last year. Barry has taken on the AT and will be on after Rita. Finally, Winton Porter's Passin Thru copes with snow in May and a hypothermic previous guest. So let's get to it. Here's Rita Walton, the exotically named Fire Goddess. So today we've got another woman of a certain age, as the French say. This is Rita Walton, or Fire Goddess. Hey Rita, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Now, we connected through Shannon Shaver, a previous guest. Did the two of you meet on the AT this year?
Yes, that's where I met Shannon.
Did you hike with her much?
Yeah, actually, I can't remember when I first ran into her. I think maybe in the Shenandoahs. Or no,
Nice.
I'd met her once before that. But then we talked in the Shenandoahs, and then we kind of ran into each other at different intervals. And then in New York, in fact, Fort Montgomery is where she actually started hiking with Southern Exposure and myself. And we formed a tramily, or I guess Southern and I were already a tramily at that point. And Shannon joined us, or Feather Blue. And we hiked together as a tramily right up to Mount Washington.
Wow, quite a bit.
Yeah, we had different schedules. And so we kind of parted company at that point.
And it's funny how it's almost the transitory nature of these encounters on the trail. It's almost whimsical, isn't it? You can be hiking within a day of each other for about 1,000 miles and not see each other, and then not go a day without seeing each other for some time. It's just quite remarkable.
Yes,
and Shannon wanted to put us in contact because, as she said, you'll take anyone hiking. Where did this desire to get people out on trails come from?
Well, it really... All right, I'm going to confess, it's really more selfish and less altruistic than it might sound.
I was guessing that was the way, yeah.
Yeah, because I love hiking. And when I was in 8th grade, I went to a summer camp. They took us on a overnight backpack trip on the property in Dahlonega, Georgia. And when they figured out, okay, we can do this, then they took us on an overnight at Blood Mountain on the AT. And when I learned that trail that we were on went from Georgia to Maine and you can walk from there, I just decided I want to do that. But I didn't know anyone who backpacked. So I carried around that dream of backpacking since 8th grade. And anytime I run into anyone who likes hiking, I take them hiking with me. But it's really because I love hiking so much.
So what was it then about that experience at the age of 13? Because that can go either way with kids, can't it? They could really hate it forever. But what was it about it that moved you so much, that made you want that this became on your bucket list so much?
I think there were a couple things. I was a tomboy by nature. I liked being outdoors and I loved the mountains. But I think also, and you mentioned of a certain age, but growing up in a small town in Southeast Georgia, I think I thought that this is a way I can get out and see the rest of the country I grew up in. I'm a dual Canadian U.S. citizen. I live in the Toronto area now, but I grew up in the States and, a small town in the Southeast. And I maybe thought I will see, this country. I'll see more than the little place where I'm from. And then ironically, I saw a lot of the world and moved to another country long before I came back to accomplish that dream. But the dream to hike the AT never went away.
Well, funnily enough, when you were speaking there, I was thinking to myself, I kind of felt that way myself. Not so much I wanted to get out of England. It's more a case when I read the book, the Bill Bryson book, I thought to myself, how remarkable that Americans can literally go through their country, seeing all these different places, these different states and so on. And yet it was also remarkable to me how few people really actually know about the Appalachian Trail.
I know.
You are obviously so close to it. And I can see how that would take you. You live in a small area. You've got this opportunity to do this one pathway to this vast area of the States. Mm-hmm. So, I absolutely love that. And it took you, we'll say, a few years of talking about it all the time, as you said to me when we spoke before. Mm-hmm. Was this one of those bucket list items that you thought you'd never get to do, or were you always planning to do this at some stage in your life? But of course, life takes over, doesn't it?
As a bucket list, I had a lot of bucket list things that I wanted to do that at some point, as you grow older, you think, I don't really want to do that, like climbing the face of Half Dome. That went away, right? Yeah, or Everest, eventually, I know what cold's like. No, I don't want to do that. But this never went away. But I was concerned that I might not be able to do it because, life went on and I worked in technology and finance and, over the years just kind of became glued to my laptop and gained weight and was really physically out of shape. And I was kind of afraid that I would never be in good enough physical condition to accomplish that dream. So it really became a sticking point in my mind as I thought about what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. I had a dream. I also wanted to retire at 55. So I was working pretty hard to retire at 55. And I wanted to accomplish that dream. So I kind of set a lot of wheels in motion to actually retire at that age. And then when I retired, then all my time was my own. So then I dedicated my time and energy to losing weight and getting in shape so that I could accomplish that part of my dream. So there were a few things, just wanting to be in control of my life and my decisions and my health and my body. That
sure. Well, we're going to come to that in a minute, how that happened, because that was interesting when we spoke before. But who were you talking to? I mean, you said you always talked about it. Were you talking to one particular person or anybody who would care to listen about hiking? Or were you even doing any hiking at all?
And anyone who would care to listen. But, anytime I came across someone, just when you're talking to people, what do you like? What motivates you or whatever, if hiking came up, then I would ask about it. And, when I was pregnant with my son and we did the sort of prenatal classes, I met a woman who actually did go backpacking. And so I'm like, okay, let's, I'll go. And so when our kids were young and I was on mat leave, I got one of the backpacks and put my son on my back and I started hiking local trails. And, anytime I learned a bit more about hiking, I would just do more, so anytime I ran into someone who knew about a trail or whatever, I would learn from them. And then I would just put that into practice. And then if anyone was interested and wanted to tag along, I would bring them with me. So that's kind of how me taking folks hiking goes.
Right. So when we spoke before, I wasn't quite clear about that. So you decided to retire at 55, but was that almost with the expressed intent at that age, I'm then going to have the time to do it? So when was the moment you thought, yes, I can get this done, but it's going to be another 5 years till I finish work or 10 years till I finish work? Was it ever an option when you were younger to do it?
Yeah, I've wanted to do it since I did that hike when I was in 8th grade. So
yeah, but you can never take a sabbatical though. There's no way you could.
That didn't seem like an option. I did a lot of long distance motorcycle touring too. So my dream of retiring at 55 was so that my husband and I could, continue to do long motorcycle trips and not have to squish it into vacations. It was really just around, an image of what I wanted the freedom of my life to look like. And that freedom of my life included an AT hike. I tried to get my husband to.
Yeah, did he want? Did you not try to get him involved in that as well?
I've always tried to get him involved in that. I could get him to do backcountry canoe trips in Northern Ontario, but he wasn't too into hiking, and he did try. When he saw I was not going to quit talking about it, he tried. He did the La Cloche Silhouette Trail with me. He did a little section of the AT with me near Hot Springs. But the La Cloche Silhouette was a breaking point for him. It's a 7-day hike in Northern Ontario and Killarney. Right. And it's a lot of rock faces, and it's strenuous. And he said right then, and we both were already retired at this point. He said, I know you have this dream to do this, and I have tried to like it, but I do not like it, and I'm not going to hike anymore. So if you want to do this, you need to find a friend or go solo. And so I knew right then that was my release to go solo.
That's fair enough.
And
That's
I got home and bought a Z-Pax Altiplex single-person tent as a commitment to myself, and said, that's it. Next year I'm going.
I said, and I know that you threw yourself down the YouTube rabbit hole to learn as much as you could before actually getting out and doing an overnight hike. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned before that Dixie taught you a lot. What do you think what do you think those videos actually did for you? Because I'm never sure that the preparation you do before is worth anything until you actually step on that trail and you have to handle everything yourself in front of you. Or did you find that you learned a lot through these videos?
Oh, I learned enough. It's interesting because as much as I talked to people, I never really found anyone who did overnight backpacking that I could learn that from them. And then when I stumbled upon people vlogging their AT hikes, Dixie's the first one that I stumbled upon that gave a lot of information. And what that really gave me, this is so funny, is, and people say this, I've reflected on this a lot. They say, oh, if you can walk, you can hike the AT, right? They make it sound that easy and that simple. Yeah. And I know you thru hike, so well, that's a prerequisite to starting, but it is not enough to finish. And a lot of people say the trail trains you. I have more to say about that later. But anyway, what I did learn from those videos is it really gave me the idea that I could do it, because they say that. And the other thing it gave me was a checklist of all the equipment and how to use the equipment. So that then I just gathered all the equipment, and I talked my son, who was a university student at the time, into, hey, if I buy you all this gear, will you go with me and hike on the AT? Because I wanted to see, okay, well, can I do this? Yeah. And so I was still working, but we took a vacation, and I outfitted him, and paid vacation with Mom. And we went down to do the Virginia Triple Crown. And we started in Daleville and we hiked south. This was the year that Liz Kidder, if anyone knows Handstand Liz, she was hiking the trail, and I was following her. And we leave Daleville, and our intention is to do the full Triple Crown. And literally, we passed Evan of Evan's Backpack Adventure and Liz Kidder. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm following all your videos. It was so cool. I felt like I'd met a celebrity.
A fango.
Yeah. And anyway, and she had paused her videos at the time. And I said, please don't pause them. And then she did later post. So it was kind of cool. But anyway.
But that takes him McAfee Knob. What was that experience like to see actually? Because you've seen these iconic pictures all over the place, haven't you? But to have your own picture there is something entirely different.
Well, yeah, it was. I guess maybe I need to say just a bit more about that first time with my son.
Sure.
We didn't make it all the way to Dragon's Tooth. We ended at Catawba, and I was overweight, and it showed me like you cannot. I needed to be in good shape. My son was so patient, but it was so difficult for me. So I lost 98 pounds before I got on the AT. That was something I did after I retired so that I could hike. But when I was there as a through hiker versus this short section with my son, that was a pinnacle moment.
Really?
For me.
Well, you're getting emotional. You're getting emotional there, aren't you? I can tell. Of course,
because when I was on McAfee Knob, I could sit there and remember what it was like to have arrived there carrying 98 extra pounds. And this time I had walked there from Georgia. And I wasn't sure, any through hiker, when you start out, you're not really sure you're going to make it. I thought, if I can just make it to the North Carolina border, then I won't be so embarrassed when I stop. If I could just make it 100 miles or 500. Once I hit 500, I knew I'm doing the whole thing. Nothing's going to stop me.
Well, funny you should mention that, because one of my questions was exactly that. I said, I guess by the time I'm going to read it actually out to you. I guess by the time you got back to McAfee Knob this year, your whole frame of mind has shifted since that 2018 hike. How did that feel? And I could see from your face as soon as you talked about it, it is emotional, isn't it? You go somewhere where you've dreamed of getting back to and you think, oh my gosh, I've got here. And it's literally, you've got that pack on your back. You've done it. You've got there from yourself. But I want to go back a second. And actually, my listeners know I ask sometimes indelicate questions. And when we were talking before, Rita told me her age. She told me how much weight she had to lose. So I said, well, how much did you weigh? She said, I am not telling you that. And apparently that's the thing you don't do. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, I don't. My husband and son were my biggest cheerleaders as I lost 98 pounds. And they heard blow by blow, pound by pound as each one disappeared. But neither of them have ever known what I weighed then or what I weigh now.
That's okay. Don't worry. She put me in my place last time. I'm never going to do that again. That's a good life lesson for me. But realizing that you had weight to lose, and that's a recognition you have to make, because the fact that you wanted to do this and you tried to do it, you probably thought at the time you could probably do it, but you couldn't because you felt too heavy. How did you go about losing that weight? Because 98 pounds is not an insubstantial amount. I'd have to have about 3 legs cut off and an arm. So how did you go about doing that?
How did I go about doing it? Well, I am a WW member, which was formerly Weight Watchers. I think a lot of people have heard of that. But the other thing that I did in addition to that is I cut out all sugar. I have arthritis really bad in my feet, my knees, and my hands. So that was another challenge for doing the AT.
Wow.
And sugar it inflames joints. And so I came to understand, and also I think I have a sugar addiction. And I came to understand that sugar can't really have an ongoing place in my diet or my life. And so when I decided to eliminate sugar, that really helped me stay on course, because if I did well before, I'd usually mess it up with like overeating sweets. And so whenever I took sweets off the plate, then it became, steady progress.
So because you've been very disciplined with your eating to lose the 98 pounds, how on earth did your body cope with the sugar frenzy that most hikers enjoy on the trail? Or did you actually stay away from sugar on the hike?
Oh, that's such a funny story and a progression that happened over the trail, because I started out and I was not going to eat sugar. I had no plan to eat sugar on the trail. Wow. And like literally all the way up to Virginia, when Southern Exposure was hiking with me, he used to die laughing, because he's like, Fire Goddess reads the nutritional information of the food she chooses.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Try that with a Snickers bar.
I know. Well, I didn't eat a single Snickers on the entire trail. I didn't really eat candy, but I did have to let go and start eating sugar, because I just, I had to up it for different foods, right?
Sure.
Because I was like, I'm going to have 3 grams or less. Then it was 5. And then someone gave me one of those Cliff Energy chews.
Right,
And those
right.
those helped. I called that coin operated hiking. When you get to the end of the day and you're out of energy, you pop a little energy chew in and you can hike so far until it runs out. And then you pop the next one in and you hike so far. So that's
Yeah,
what I
sure.
call coin operated hiking. But they had 12 grams of sugar in them. And then eventually I had to give up and just take away sugar as a limiter. And so the Cliff
Wow.
energy bars, they were like a go-to. I had to have at least 2 of those each day in my snack arsenal.
How was your energy then?
It was good. I mean, because you've hiked the trail, when you hike 10 hours a day, every day, and I didn't take many zeros. I took only 15 zeros on my entire hike.
Wow.
And so, some days are long and hard, but it's shocking how
I bet every day long and hard.
Yeah,
It's
it's
shocking.
like, you wake up the next morning and you can barely move, and it's amazing. You just get on the trail and you can do it again and again, and it's exhilarating, really. Like
So going back to before you actually got on the trail for a second. So you lost the weight. Did you carry on? Was part of your plan to obviously do Weight Watchers or WW and hike as well? Were you keeping that exercise going to get your body helping to burn more weight off yourself?
No, when I got on trail, I was at my goal weight. I was
Right.
at
Oh, really?
an
Wow.
ideal weight. So I had no weight to lose. And ironically, of, so many people who get on the trail and lose weight, I stayed the same weight.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, pretty much the entire hike.
And how did you feel? I'm sure there must be many more improvements than just you can actually carry your pack and walk and so on. Did it improve your attitude, and did you improve your mental health about things in general? Your confidence, I suspect, as much as anything.
Oh, definitely my confidence. The hike on Katahdin was like a pinnacle moment. Going up the Hunt Trail, I watched so many vloggers, and no vlog have I ever seen does justice for what the experience of going up the Hunt Trail is like.
No.
I don't know if you've seen any that do it justice, but I can't
I
find
watch a
photos.
lot of them. I watch a lot of them just to get that feeling back,
But it is so, like, the climb is so intense when you get to that first where you go up the rebar and it just keeps going. And, the whole way, I learned so many things, but like your mental game is so important. What you say to yourself inside your head is so important. And so I was just saying to myself at every obstacle that looked like it was impossible is, I am going to do this. I've climbed every other rock face that I came upon that I couldn't figure it out. I can't exactly see how I'm going to do it at this moment, but I'll find a place to stick my fingers and toes and somehow get myself up and over this. And then I would, and I'd hit the next one and I'd think, oh my goodness. And, and I kept calling to my mind as I was going up the Hunt Trail, all the other obstacles that I didn't think I'd make it over, that I made it over, so that then I'd know I can make it over this one. So,
well, funny enough, you say that getting over obstacles. A friend of mine, Jack, who was actually a guest on the show once, I hiked with him once. I met him once on a hike we did with a bunch of other people, and I said to him, "There's never been a mountain you just couldn't get over, because look behind you. We got over that mountain. We're going to see that mountain over there. We're going to get over that bugger as well. We're going to do it eventually." And it's one of those things. I mean, I had those thoughts in my mind. My thoughts were more like, "What on earth are you doing out here, you silly old fool? You shouldn't be doing it." You just had to keep going and keep moving forward. So you were ready physically in March. I think it was early March this year. What was your,
8th.
especially for somebody who looked forward to it for about 40 odd years? What was it like? What was your state of mind like when you touched that sign on the top of Springer to start your hike in March this year?
It was phenomenal. I was so excited.
I bet you were.
Sometimes people say, what was your motivation? And I just thought every single day to lay my eyes on the next thing on the trail, was my motivation for it all. And I, all the iconic places that you see, I was just so thrilled to be at each one and every one. So, yeah.
That's one of the massive benefits, I think, of the YouTube rabbit hole. I think you see these people at McAfee Knob, you see them up Katahdin, you see them in Shenandoah, you see bears, you see all these different sorts of things, and then suddenly you're there. You walk into Harper's Ferry, you're there as well. And it's just amazing. You got that picture outside the shop in Harper's Ferry, the ATC in Harper's Ferry. All those things, another thing to tick off in the back of your mind, and yes, I've done that, and I've seen that before, and this is going to be awesome. And it always is awesome, isn't it?
Well, it's more awesome than it looks, actually, in the videos or the photos. I mean, Franconia Ridge was my, if you had to pick your best day on trail, Franconia Ridge would be my best day. Like my top three would be McAfee Knob, Franconia Ridge, and Katahdin. And Franconia Ridge, it's photos and videos just cannot do justice to the size and the scale and the majesty. And when you stand there and you climb it and you do it, and, folks say things like, if you can walk, you can do the trail, but it doesn't even begin to prepare you. When you do the trail, you get stronger, and every single day you get strong enough that you can do those massive climbs in the Whites and Katahdin. I don't know how the southbounders do it, where they start there and they don't have the rest of the trail.
As my listeners know, I'm alongside you there. There's no possibility having Katahdin as an approach trail wouldn't have had me quitting on the approach trail. It would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, but the majesty, there's just nothing like it.
But going back to the beginning, you've touched the top of the sign. You have your first night on the trail, and you're kind of really excited. What were that first state like? What was it like for you? Because I found Georgia tougher than I'd imagined it was going to be. Both times, by the way.
Yeah. Someone, a fellow, I think his name was Zach, gave me some real good advice. I was still in Georgia, and the climbs were kind of daunting. And I don't know what I said to him. This was starting out at just past Hiwassee at Dix Creek. And he said, oh, you just do your 1-2 low. He's talking about a gear. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, you just put one foot in front of the other, and you just keep doing that. And you just slow down and shorten your stride, but don't stop. And that became a rule for me from that was probably my 5th day on trail, or might have been my 6th day on trail. And then I had a rule. And if I was doing an ascent, I never stopped going up a hill. I had to just keep shortening my stride and go a little slower, but so long as I kept moving one foot in front of the other. And then I did not pause until I got to the top, or if there was a long flat or a descent in the middle of the climb, I might pause. But that was a rule for me. So anyone who hiked with me, if they if they like to stop on an ascent and have a rest, they could. I would see them on the other side. And you know how you said when you with your friend Jack that you can get over it all. Mine was, no ascent will last forever. There is no mountain that just keeps going up.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
You will eventually get to a place where it flattens out or goes down. And so I just had to keep putting one foot, I called it the 1-2 low. Had to get one foot in front of the other in low gear and keep going.
It's funny, actually, I remember going up Blood Mountain, because everybody warned us Blood Mountain was a tough mountain to go. It's the first big mountain you go over in Georgia, obviously. It was endless. I thought, oh my gosh, if this is what it's going to be like the rest of it, I'm in trouble here. Because I kept thinking, we must be at the top now. It looked like, there's tons of false summits up there. And we kept going backwards and forwards, and suddenly we were there. That's a great relief. I just, the moments like that. And I noted down last time, and I may have got this wrong, that you actually got hypothermia on the trail.
I did.
Is that right?
I did.
Tell us, how'd that happen?
Well, at this point, I was in a bit of a different tramily. Right. This was early on, and there was 5 of us. And, we weren't well organized. We just somebody would pick and say, let's go to here, and off we went. We'd just take off, right? And sure. I think I was just enjoying the social aspects or what have you. And so we had said, hey, we're going to Clyde Smith Shelter. Okay, off we go. And the day started warm enough that I had shorts on. But very quickly in the day, the weather turned cold. And here's a key point in this story. I never checked the weather forecast. I just woke up, and as a group, we said, hey, we're going here, and off we went. This was a big learning lesson for me. So off we go, hiking away, turns really cold, starts to rain. Rain becomes sleet. Sleet becomes hell and snow all day long. I hike in the freezing weather.
Your shorts.
And my shorts. But, when you're hiking and this, like it's kind of bizarre, that's enough, like because you're moving, your body, my body was very warm, right?
Yeah.
But I get into the shelter and by that time, like my legs were quite cold. I had icicles in my hair. And I get to the shelter and, it's well below freezing. Like it is very, very cold. Everyone's shivering and, I'm wet. And so I could not get warmed up once I got to the shelter. And I knew I was in trouble because I knew I had to put my water filter, in my sleeping bag and my electronics. And my electronics were so cold that I took them out because they were like holding the cold and preventing me from getting my body heat going inside the sleeping bag.
Wow.
And I knew when I took my electronics out, I thought, oh, that's not smart. I'm from Canada. I know about hypothermia. I know better. Right. And so anyway, the next morning, of course, I woke up and I had done so many stupid things. My water bottles were frozen. My filter was frozen. And so I had said to that group that I was hiking with, whoa, big mistake. Just so you know, I'm not following the group anymore. As soon as I get to the top of the next mountain, which is Roan Mountain, by the way.
I know it. Yeah.
When I get to the top of the next mountain and I have cell service, I'm calling the next hostel. I'm going to get picked up at Carver Gap and I'm getting indoors and I'm getting warm. And that's my plan. If you want to join me, you're welcome to. And so they chose not to, and that's fine. And, but it was, and the cold continued. Roan was covered in snow and ice.
Oh,
and it was a tough hike up and over Roan and down to Carver. But I just knew with hypothermia, you do not stop.
And you need to get picked up straight away because it's I remember being stuck in the fog up there once. It was freezing in Carver's Gap.
Yes. Well, wow. and the I knew that the shuttle, so I'd reached the hostel. It was the one with the great breakfast, if you remember, if you had the good fortune
Mountain Harbor.
Yes, Mountain Harbor.
Lovely.
And so they didn't actually have space there, but when I told them I had hypothermia, they let me come and sleep on the couch in that common area in the barn.
That's cool.
And they said they will pick me up at 3, so I had a time, and I just knew I had to get there and be there for 3. And so actually hiking, just because I knew enough about it, I just knew not to stop. So as long as you're moving, you're okay. Because when you're moving, your body generates enough heat. And so I made it.
How did you recover? What was it like to recover?
Oh, it's a piece of cake. When you're inside, you get in a hot shower, you have some warm food. It wasn't severe hypothermia. It was those beginning stages where you do illogical things like, I left behind my water bladder, left behind my pack cover. I knew I was there because I knew I was like, what I was doing didn't make the best sense for me. And so I made a decision right then that I was going to stay solo and not get back in a tramily because I wanted to be in control of all of my decisions and be accountable to myself for every decision.
That is definitely, there's pluses and minuses of being in a tramily. And that is definitely one of the minuses. You're not making your own decision. You are hiking other people's hikes. And we've talked about that many a time.
Yep.
So anybody listening to this will think you did the whole 2,200 miles, but with about 2,000 miles under your belt, you went home to attend a motorbike rally with your husband, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was at the start of Maine, and when we planned this trip, he's big into motorcycling. So I've joined him on so many motorcycle trips, not so much into hiking. But what we had planned is he would come down on the motorcycle and he would meet me at various trail towns. Nice. And, because of COVID, the land border was closed. Yeah. So from Canada. So I was a dual citizen. I could come across, but he couldn't cross. And so eventually we decided, okay, well, forget meeting me on trail. And once you're hiking, you realize meeting someone along the way is difficult.
It's logistically very tough, yeah.
Yeah. So then we decided, well, we'll have a big celebration. He'll come down on the motorcycle at the end and we'll, travel in the Southeast where we'd love to travel. And we'll pass through the trail towns and, I'll tell him about my experience at each one. Well, when I was in just leaving New Hampshire, coming into Maine, they announced once again, because every month we kept expecting them to open the border. And then they announced that they were not going to.
Right.
And so then we realized, we won't have a motorcycle trip together this summer season down in the US. The only possibility, and I had thrown out, well, we can always do a trip in Quebec or something. So then we realized, that trip's going to have to be in Quebec. And the prior year, we had done a trip in the Gaspé. We were going to go north of there, so about 500 miles north of Katahdin. And so when we started talking about the logistics of that, it's very cold. It was very cold doing that motorcycle trip in August. So we knew we didn't want to do it in October. So that meant we needed to do it in September.
Right.
So when I was looking at the balance, I think there's about just under 300 miles on the AT in Maine. So I knew, because I knew my pace pretty well at that point, and your pace certainly slows, like through the Whites and in southern Maine.
Tell me about it.
And I knew I wouldn't be back in time for us to get a trip done in September. So I skipped up to Stratton. So I skipped about 100 miles in southern Maine.
Right.
And I skipped up to Stratton, and I picked up hiking from there, so that I would be able to get back to Canada in time for us to do a motorcycle trip in northern Quebec and be finished by October 1st.
So will you finish the AT next year?
Next year, my son's getting married, and I have committed to do a through hike of the Bruce Trail that runs from Niagara Falls up to Tobermory.
Right.
So that's going to take up too much of my summer next summer.
Right.
But the following summer, I will come down and finish that almost 200 miles of the AT that I skipped. And it's in Maine that I have about 200 miles of Maine.
That's a tough thing to go straight into Maine, I tell you.
Yeah.
that won't be easy. So is the long distance hiking itch satisfied, or was it an Appalachian Trail itch? Do you think you're going to go back once you finish, or if you don't finish the AT, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Will you do other long hikes, or are you're okay with what you've done?
Well, it was an Appalachian Trail itch, not just a long hike.
Right. I thought it was.
Itch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it was. But what it created in me is, I love the AT, and I love, hikes that are not day hikes. To me,
Sure.
it's not so. I do enjoy day hiking, but it's not the same as just getting on a trail and going and stopping and going.
I have zero interest in day hikes. Zero interest at all.
Well, I have a lot less, to be honest with you, than I do for overnight. But I don't see myself. Well, I think about it. I can't stop thinking about the ATs. And so, I wanted to ask you, why did you do it twice?
Yeah. We're going to talk offline afterwards. Yeah.
If I ever do another long hike, it would be the AT again.
Right.
But I think I will be a section hiker of the AT or any other trail, probably for the rest of my life, because I love it so much.
You've done it. What did you? And I know you've loved it, and I can see the emotion you shared earlier on, and I can see your smile now because you've done pretty much all of it. So, what has it given you as a person?
Wow. Well, confidence for one. And, I guess as I was always a working mom, it's so hard to make yourself and the things that make you happy a priority, and I realize how important it is to make time and space for those things that give you joy.
Sure.
And so, it's when you're working, it's so easy to give your first priority, your first time away to your family or to work or whatever. But I don't, for the rest of my life, I won't give away taking care of myself and taking care of my joy is the first priority. That whole put your oxygen mask on yourself first before assisting others with you.
Damn right.
It really drove home that if you're not going to pursue the things that give you the most amount of joy, no one's going to chase you down and hand it to you.
That's right. Yeah. Especially guys. Guys might do that to you.
No. And, I think I never did really explain this, but, I know that what Shannon said to you, when I was hiking the trail, you have a lot of time with your own thoughts, right?
Sure.
There's this, what are you here for? What's your purpose or your mission in life? And one thing that I absolutely love and enjoy is to encourage other people in whatever it is that they want, right?
Sure.
And it occurred to me while I was on the hike that my life's mission and purpose, and this came from feedback from other hikers and reflecting on it, is really 4 words. It's to inspire and encourage others. And, in whatever they're doing, I love talking to people, love talking to other hikers. And after a while, everyone was like, oh, Fire Goddess is so wonderful. And it kind of made me nervous. I'm thinking, why are they talking about me? And someone, Twinkle Toe, said, oh, well, I talked to these other hikers and they just said that you were just so inspiring and encouraging. And I think I just love doing that for other people. And so some people think I'm all about encouraging people to hike, but that's because that's what they want. Whatever someone wants, as I talk to them and I figure out what that is, it's like my mission to just inspire them and encourage them to do
Very
that.
cool. Very
whatever
cool.
that is. But,
and just before we finish, and I've noticed, of course, I haven't actually asked you why you've got such an exotic trail name. Why are you Fire Goddess? It's a great name.
What's so funny is I didn't want a trail name at all. I thought it seemed silly to have these whimsical names.
Oh, no, it doesn't. It's important.
And I know.
You become that person.
I know. But I didn't understand that. It didn't make sense to me, and I felt uncomfortable, and I was trying to control my trail name so that it was like something that people already called me.
Right.
And so anyway, I was trying to come up with these simple names, and I was sitting up on Tamarack Mountain with a group of folks, and I forget what I was trying to make my trail name, but it was because I like to make fires. And this guy named Viking, who is a wonderful fellow on the trail, he has a bit of a poetic look on life. And they were all listening, and they rejected the kind of bland name that I had picked out for myself. And so we are all going to get up and hike down the mountain. And he said, hey, yo, Fire Goddess, why don't we make a conga line and go down the mountain or whatever? And everyone went, that's her name. She is Fire Goddess. And I thought, it couldn't be more whimsical than that.
Oh, it's lovely.
And
that's
it
a great
just
name.
took off. And, I came to love that name. And
I'm
you're
sure
right.
you should do. You should do.
I really
It's
felt
exotic.
like I had become Fire Goddess. And they say the best trail names are about a couple different parts of your personality. I'm a Sagittarian. It's a fire sign. My husband says I have a fiery personality. But I think, too, when I talk to other people, I didn't know I'd enjoy that interaction so much. So I did love connecting with other people, figuring out what made them tick and inspiring them. And somehow I think that just became a part of the whole Fire Goddess persona.
So to them, you're Fire Goddess, you're not Rita. And it's funny.
Right.
I in the same way, I'm definitely Mighty Blue when I'm out on the trail. And it's funny how that goes, because I'm Steve anywhere else, but it's the way it goes. But look, I'd really appreciate Shannon firstly putting us in touch. You and I are going to speak offline in a minute. But thanks for coming on the show. And I said we're going to speak in about 10 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Cheers. Often see our guests when we're recording, and Rita was really welling up when she talked about being on McAfee Knob, 98 pounds lighter than she'd been just 2 years before. Can you imagine leaving the trail when you're 200 miles from the brown sign? I must admit, I'd have found that tough. Of course, a motorbike ride with her husband obviously wasn't a bad alternative. And it's funny how she raised the issue of hypothermia, because our reading today focuses on that as well. Thanks this week to all our supporters and those who've donated to keep these shows going. This week, and of course I know, including the previous week after last week's show, I want to thank monthly donors Jenny Grunke, Brian Helton Jr., Lisa Rana, Erskine Bass, Kevin Eastman, Todd Withrow and Suzanne Johnson. And the following people also sent in generous donations. Jens Lipperheider, who often sends in money. Thanks, Jens. Sridhar Saraf, who says, congratulations on your 300th episode, Mighty Blue. You have no idea how much my life has changed since I first discovered your podcast in 2018. Here's a small contribution from me. Keep up good work. Thanks, Sridhar. Then there's Arthur Gross, who used a formula to donate using the number of episodes. Nice one, Arthur. John Park and Wayne Howie. Oh, and yes, I got a check from Michael Oldham. Thanks to all of you. You really make a difference. Now let's meet another member of the class of 2022. This is Barry Hill. We had to talk on the phone, but the sound is fine. Here's Barry. Well, Well, this week's guest and the next member of the class of 2022 is somebody we've already met on the show. This is Barry Hill. Hey, Barry, how are you?
Good, Steve. How are you, sir?
I'm great. And there's a little clue there. You called me sir. you're ex law enforcement, and they do that all the time, which is pretty cool.
And a southerner, so.
All right, and a southern, yeah. So what's your experience? You were in law enforcement. Actually, I think I saw a picture of you the other day, which you put on Facebook, of you at the count in the 2001 count. I think the year 2000 election count, weren't you?
Yes, yeah. I got to supervise that. That was fun. I was a law enforcement officer very near where you're at in Polk County, right next door.
All right, yeah.
For 28 years, I was a police officer with a couple of small agencies, and then went to the sheriff's office for over a quarter of a century. So,
wow, sounds a long time, doesn't it? A quarter of a century. So you're retired now?
Yes, sir. I retired in 2010 and moved to Knoxville, Tennessee in 2013.
And how old are you now, Barry, if you don't mind asking?
I'll be 59. I'll be 60 in February.
Oh, right. Okay. So when are you planning to start your hike?
My tentative start date is April 8th of 2022.
Interesting. You know, it's amazingly varied, the people's start dates. Why are you starting then?
Well, April 8th is my daughter's birthday. And I lost my daughter in 2000. She was killed in a traffic crash there on Interstate 4 in Central Florida. I
seem to recall you telling me that you attended the crash as a police officer, didn't you?
I actually responded to the crash, yes.
Oh my gosh. So is this part of why you're going out there?
It's part of it. It's not all of it, but it's hard to explain. I first stepped on the AT as a 10-year-old.
All right. Good for you.
10-year-old summer camp in North Georgia. I grew up in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So one summer I went to summer camp in North Georgia.
All right.
And lo and behold, we did 3 days and 2 nights on this thing called the Appalachian Trail that I had no idea existed.
So what did that feel like? What was it like then? What struck you at the time?
I have flashbacks of it, little visuals. I remember getting separated kind of in the middle of the group. You know, you had people in the back, counselors in the back, of course, and counselors up front.
Sure.
And I remember walking along one day and just being in complete peace. And all these years, those few days have never left me.
That's interesting. But
yeah,
did you hike much growing up after that, or is this a relatively new experience for you now?
That was the one and only time in my childhood that I hiked anything. So
now I know that when we spoke at the Woods Hole weekend, you came to that Woods Hole weekend, if you recall, year before last, or was it like year? You know, I lose track of time. It was last year, actually, wasn't it?
That's last year.
Yeah. And had you already decided you were going to do the AT then, or I know you were thinking very strongly of it?
I had decided. Yeah.
You'd actually set it. So now it's funny actually, because the date comes faster and faster towards you, doesn't it? You know, it's suddenly upon you. What are you doing now to prepare physically? And the reason I ask this is actually, I know part of the answer. I know you've been on the AT quite a bit recently, haven't you?
I've done, over the several years, I've done 615.1 miles of the AT from Tellico Gap north to Black Horse Gap north of Roanoke.
Right. So when you start in April, are you starting back at Georgia, though, or are you going to miss out that section?
I'm going to start in Springer, and right. I'm really completely flexible. If I need to bounce up and flip-flop, I have no problem doing that.
Right. And what about the mental approach to this? Because this is a grueling thing to do, to be away from home, family, and so on.
Right.
How are you preparing mentally for this hike?
Well, that's probably the most difficult aspect of it. Fortunately, again, I've hiked so much of it, and probably 1,500 miles total since 2013. I know exactly what I'm getting into.
All right. And you're still doing it.
yeah. I'm 59 and still doing it. But,
quite right too. Yeah, quite right. So you know what's coming because you do know what's coming. Are you daunted by the prospect, or are you excited by the prospect?
What is intimidating me is I'm actually letting my apartment go.
Oh wow, you're burning a few bridges then.
At 60 years old, I will be officially homeless. So
just go with it, Barry. It's okay. It's not bad.
That is scaring the hell out of me, to be honest with you, because I'm a very security conscious type of person, and that is freaking me out. But I'm going to go for it.
Good for you. Good for you. You know, and you will meet loads of people out there, Barry, who've completely abandoned their previous lives, and they'll be, and you'll think to yourself, what was I worried about? This is great, because when I get back, I'll work something else out. Because one thing you learn as a hiker on the trail is you learn how to problem solve. You'll have lots of problems to solve out there. Don't worry about it. You'll have plenty of opportunities to solve problems, and you just have to do that.
Well, I look at it as motivation. If I have no home to come back to, then I'm more apt to maybe complete it. So.
There's interesting. Interesting. And what have you done with your equipment? Have you been dialing it in over the last couple of years? You pretty confident with all the stuff you've got right now?
I believe so. I've pretty much picked the pack. I tried some ultralight packs, and they were just killing me. I'm just too old for that. So I've gone with an Osprey pack. It's a little heavier, but it's just more comfortable. And I believe I've got everything I need. Yes, sir.
That's cool. Are you tenting or hammocking? I'm
going to tent. I've got a terrible lower back, and just the thought of being slumped in a hammock is not going to work.
Do you know what? Every hammocker will say you can get really comfortable in them. I can't imagine it myself. I've never been in a hammock, so I don't speak from any experience. It doesn't seem possible to me. You can lie flat, but they'll tell you can.
I need the back support. I can't lay in a hammock. There's no way.
And talking of support, what about support? Are you getting support from home?
Well, I'm divorced. I'm single.
Yeah.
I've got a number of friends that have offered to support me. I've got friends in Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland.
Man, you're getting it sorted out.
And actually, I have people in Maine. So I think I'll be all right. I think I'll be okay.
And as you face this now, you're looking forward to it, I'm sure. I mean, I'm envious of speaking to all of you guys who are going next year. What are your expectations of next year? What are you expecting to happen?
That's really hard to put into words. I want to have a little more faith in my fellow man. You know, being in law enforcement, you get extremely cynical and extremely suspicious. And
I come from a police family. Police family. Both my parents, both my father and my brother were both police, and they felt very much the same. They felt very much the same, that they lost faith in a lot of people. Yeah, well, you know, I don't say it often, but you know, both my brother and my father were law enforcement, and they did get very cynical about life. Yeah,
you do, and you tend to only hang out with other cops, and you don't. I try to have more of a diverse friend base, so I'm hoping to improve on that.
Well, I got to tell you, man, if you're open to it, people will be open to it with you as well. So don't worry about that. You're going to meet the most diverse group of people out there, many of whom's politics you agree with, many of whom politics you don't agree with. It doesn't matter in the least, because you've both got this endeavor you're all working towards, and you'll have people on your side the whole time. So don't worry about that at all. And what are you most looking forward to on the trail, though? What's the thing you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm really looking forward to that?
Just the freedom, the sense of accomplishment, just trying it is more than the vast majority of people will ever do.
Absolutely right.
I mean, my attitude is kind of like it. I may make it 20 miles and break my leg. I may make it 100 miles and go, this really isn't for me. But I may make it 2,200 miles and have an adventure of a lifetime. And again, the most important thing is I got off the couch and tried.
Yeah, I always think whoever walks through that arch is already ahead of the game. The mere
Correct.
fact that you've got off your arse and gone through that arch is the important bit. The rest of it, I've been lucky enough to do this twice. I could have easily fallen and broken a leg, and it would have been over in the first 10 yards. It's possible. Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you remember in my book. Yeah. I know you said you're rereading it. I banged my head literally the first step at the top of the spring. I thought I was going to knock myself out. It was ridiculous.
I thought of you on Peter's Mountain the other month about when you got dog bit. So I walked through it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That stuff like that happens, and that lives with you, which is fine. But that's all part of the richness of being on the trail. You just don't know what's going to happen next. It's going to be great. But there must be things, because we've always said on the show that this can really, really suck in a big way for often 2, 3, 4, even 5 days at a time. What are you least looking forward to on the trail?
Probably being unclean.
Well, hey man, you need to get over that right now, because you're going to be really unclean.
I've been a ferocious day hiker, but then you go to the restaurant and come home and shower. So that's going to be a big adjustment. Just that right there. So
yeah, do you know what? It's when you start licking the sweat off your arm, and it smells like what's the stuff it smells like? I've forgotten what the word is now. It's when your fat starts burning and your muscle starts burning as well. Whatever it is, ammonia. It smells of ammonia. It is awful. So
wow.
Look forward to that. And what about trail name? Have you thought of a trail name yet, or are you going to let yourself be named by the trail?
I have thought of one. If you recall back America Online back in the mid '90s.
Yeah, I know.
When AOL was big.
Yeah, bless them.
My very first AOL screen name I picked was a nickname of my older brother back in Georgia in the '70s.
What was that?
It's Hill Dog.
Oh, of course, that's your email address. Yeah, Hill Dog. Excellent. That's really good. I like it. That's really good.
I kind of borrowed it from my older brother, and that was actually my very first America Online screen name, like in 1994. So,
well, you know what? Be open to it, though. If someone says they'll see things in you that you perhaps don't even see in yourself.
Correct.
And they may try to name you, but remember, you don't have to accept any names that you don't want. So that's perfect,
Correct. Plus, my last name is Hill, and I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan, so it kind of fits.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I'm rooting for you, Barry. You know that. I'm so pleased that you're going this year, and we got the chance to follow you. As we did speak, obviously, before we started recording. But please stay in touch. Text me when you got a story to tell, and we'll follow you all the way up the trail, and hopefully we'll be there to cheer you on when you get to Katahdin.
I absolutely will. It's an honor. I appreciate it.
Okay, buddy. You take it easy. Okay.
Yes, sir. You too.
Cheers, then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Barry can be quite a serious man, though we did manage to have a few laughs. I see his posts on Facebook, and I can see how intense his desire for this journey is. I can't imagine how excited he's going to be when he's 200 yards from that side in, I don't know, September or October next year. Mind you, that's going to be the same for all of our class. We can only wish them the best. Don't forget, I can make your podcast for you. If you've ever wanted to share your knowledge of hiking with the world, or even if you want to share the journey of learning about hiking, then I'm your guy. It costs, but you get a lot for what you pay. If you want to talk to me about it, you can email me at steve@hikingradionetwork.com, and we'll jump on Zoom to chat about it. Finally today, and remember, Rita brought up the subject of hypothermia earlier, Winton Porter is facing a similar dilemma at mountain crossings. I'll see you next week. Chapter 16, Samsonite Twins. For thousands of years, this system of mountains, with its heavy forests and its endlessly succeeding ridges, has slowed and broken Atlantic storms, and for thousands of years, the same storms have gradually battered the Appalachians down, carving the eastern faces with slopes that resemble snowboarders' halfpipes and gaps that will send winds blasting through like a spitball through a straw. Now and then, a wandering gust of Atlantic weather will meet some cold northwest air going the other way, and the valleys under Blood Mountain become, again, as in legend, the scene of a battle between storms. Today, after 3 days of bitter fighting, a freak Great Lakes blizzard has won our victory. Having already dumped hundreds of inches of snow from Minnesota to Kentucky, it has blanketed North Georgia with accumulations of 4 to 8 inches, with reports of 24 inches in Great Smoky Mountains National Park, 55 miles north. It is late May and temperatures have fallen below 20 degrees. I've been up most of the night, putting antifreeze in toilets, checking on the many miles of water pipes, rotating electric heaters throughout the building, and keeping the wood stove in the shop burning. Margie and the girls are huddled on the floor in the den of the house, under a collection of old down sleeping bags. Skye, after making the first early rounds with me, decided that her services were better employed warming the feet of the children. When she hears me walk by, she does not lift her head, but rather peeks through one eye, as if to say, "Please don't ask me to go outside again." I tiptoe down the inside back stairs to the hostel, trying not to wake Pirate, who's sleeping just below, and quietly unlock the door that opens into its common area. But Pirate is already awake. Before I can open the door, I find his hand on my shoulder. "It's 4:30, Pirate. Why are you up so early?" "Hell, I've been up for an hour. It's late now. Want some coffee?" "Sure, but I didn't bring my cup." "I got one. Let me wipe it out." Pirate looks around the counter for a hand towel, a paper towel, a napkin, but can't find one quickly enough, so he uses his shirt to clean out the bottom of an old Barnum and Bailey clown cup that he grabs from the shelf. "There you go. That ought to work," he mumbles as he pours from the muddy coffee pot. "How many we got in the bunks tonight?" I ask him as I take a sip from my cup and feel the grains of coffee on my tongue and teeth. "It's a full house. Good coffee, eh?" "Yeah. Next time you really should use a filter." "Are the twins here?" "Yep. I had to put them on the floor last night. They were going to camp out, but I guess they changed their mind." "Have you heard any more about the weather?" "Yep. According to the radio, it should be over today and back to sunny skies and upper 70s by tomorrow." "That's good. It should make this group a little happier today. Now, Pirate, I would love to stay and chew some more of this delicious coffee," I say with a grin and a tip of my cup, "but I've got to shovel some snow, salt the walkways and throw some more wood on the fire in the shop." When the sun is shining and there is no wind in the air, shoveling snow can be therapeutic. This is not one of those days. I hurriedly clear one side of the stairs with a snow shovel, creating a 2-foot path to the shop, and toss salt crystals onto the stone walkway near the entrance. Then I slip into the store and lock the latch. I find old Iron Maiden burning bright, and a warm glow calls me over. I put another log inside a steel belly and take a seat in front in my old Lafuma fold-up recliner chair. The shop is quiet, but my head is not. If I've taken care of everything, what else needs to be done? Who did I help yesterday, and are they safe in this weather today? Where's Lefty? What about the twins? Will they listen? Who are they? Where are they from? Are they runaways? I need to know. Do I want to know? At some point, the internal chatter stops and I fall asleep in my chair. I am awakened by a hard rattling at the door and the ringing of the phone. Iron Maiden is down to smouldering ash. The air is colder and the morning light is pouring through the windows. In my groggy state, I crawl to the counter and pull myself up to my feet, uncertain which event deserves my attention first. I see through the window that Bumblefoot is the rattler of the door. He can wait, so I head for the cordless phone next to the cash register and answer it while walking to the door. "Mountain Crossings, this is Winton. How can I help you?" I unlatch the door and let Billy inside. The voice on the phone is scratchy and keeps breaking up. "What was that? Could you speak up?" "Let go of what?" "Not let go," Billy says, demonstrating his powers of interpretation. "Lego." "Lego?" "Yeah, Winton, it's Lego. Can you hear me?" "I hear you, Lego. What's happening?" This guy," says the anxious, broken voice on the other side. I can tell he's shouting, but he sounds far away. "Lego, where in the hell are you? You better be in the woods because the reception on that cell phone sucks. Can you hear me now?" "Not really, dude. You still sound like you're at a rock concert." "No, not Hawk Mountain, Blue Mountain Shelter." "I didn't say Hawk Mountain. I said We're at Blue Mountain Shelter, and there's this guy, and, well, we can't get him moving. He's cold, wearing all cotton everything. We can't get him moving. He refuses to let us help." "Let me guess. Is he in his mid-40s, carrying a duffel bag and missing his right hand?" "What?" I said mid-40s, carrying a... "What?" "His right hand. His hand. Lego, is he missing his right hand?" "Yes. How'd you know?" "Lucky guess. Does anybody there have some extra clothes, a jacket, blanket you can get on him?" "No, everything's wet and frozen. We've got to get out of here." "Well, you can't just leave him there. Could you get me a pulse rate?" "Huh?" "Lego, check his pulse, heart rate. Give me the number. Okay, hold on. The phone goes dead. Lego must have moved from his 1 square foot of reception. I hang up and Billy hands me a cup of coffee from the other side of the counter, then leans on the counter while cradling his own cup in both hands. Good to be in the front row, he says. I pick up the phone after one ring. What do you got, Lego? We're getting 65. Damn, it's cold. Man, we gotta go. Lego, give me your cell phone number. Lego calls out the number and I repeat it out loud as Billy copies it into his little journal. Lego, listen, we'll call rescue, but you've got to get this guy moving. I don't care if you have to kick him down the mountain. Get him moving. Head towards Unicoi Gap. It's 2 miles downhill. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Get him moving, Lego confirms. Then the line goes dead with a soft hiss like the sound of snowfall. Union County 911, what's your emergency? This is Winton Porter at Mountain Crossings. I got a call from a cell phone near Blue Mountain Shelter. There's a 45-year-old male missing his right hand, about 6 feet, 160 pounds. We're getting about 65 beats per minute. He's conscious and has symptoms of hypothermia. Where is that? 2 miles south on the trail above Unicoi Gap. Is that in Union County? No, it's closer to Helen. I think that's White County. Well, sir, you'll have to call White County. Ma'am, I'm just the middleman here, and this is the only phone number we have for emergency. Any chance you can make the phone call? Pause. Well, it's not how we usually do things, but I guess I can do that. Would you give me your name again? I repeat my name and give her Lego's phone number and wait, expecting further instructions for what seems too long. Sir, did you say his name was Lego? Yes, ma'am. I don't know his real name. That's his trail name. It's an alias. Trail name? Alias? And should I put down Winton for your real name or trail name? No, that's my real name. Do you need anything else? No, sir. Thank you. Thank you, I say, and hang up the phone. Sounds like you didn't get rid of Lefty after all, Billy says. Over the next hour, the store bustles with people trying to warm up and dry out while discussing the weather and equipment. What happened? It was near 70 degrees last week, and now this? Global warming, I tell you, global warming. El Nino, that's what's happening. I spent $140 on my 20-degree down sleeping bag and nearly froze my ass off. Ridiculous. My fiberglass tent poles froze and shattered on my tent last night. Can you replace that? Can you fix that? I don't even know. Have you ever eaten frozen ramen noodles? And so on and so on. The twins circled the store, looking at all the gear for the 100th time, then settle, as always, in the pantry, drooling over Pop-Tarts, candy bars, brownies, cinnamon buns, and potato chips, trying to determine what delectable treat they'll spend their daily money rations on today. Presently, I see Brandon walking around with a candy bar, following closely behind Braden, who has a bag of Skittles clutched tightly in his palm. They seemed to be arguing about each other's choice of candy. Brandon waves his Milky Way when he wants to make a point, and Braden rattles his bag of Skittles. They're either children playing at being adults or adults playing at being children. You don't need that, Braden. You bought a thing of Rolos yesterday. Put it back. I don't have to listen to you. It's my dollar. I can do whatever I want with it. They are so deeply embroiled in this dispute that they don't even acknowledge me when I walk up beside them. Ah, brotherly love, I say. That gives me such fond memories. Well, boys, have you thought any more about doing some work around here, earning your money so you can get your equipment right? Brandon's voice of anger changes to a quiet, politely respectful tone. This happens quickly, strangely, one mood mechanically replacing another, like the chambers of a revolver clicking into place, when he says, Yes, sir, but we need to call our mother first to see if it's all right with her to do work in the yard. We have to call her today anyway and give her an update on our Bible studies. I think to myself, call your mother? You're 19 years old, or so you say. Why do you have to get permission? Update on Bible studies. I don't want to know the details of that right now. But what I say is, okay, I understand. She's worried about you two using power tools. When you talk with Mum, would you let her know that I would like to talk with her so I can tell her about what you'll be doing around here over the next week? Also, I found some used packs in storage that may fit the two of you, but we'll need to check the fit later. It wasn't until the 4th day after their arrival, following a lot more coaxing, that they finally let me go through their packs. Nearly all the gear and clothing proves to be worthless. In addition to their Samsonite luggage travel packs, complete with wheels, they each have 5 pairs of jeans, 6 cotton t-shirts, 8 pairs of cotton socks, 1 hooded sweatshirt, and, for rain protection, a dollar store plastic poncho that looks like a cheap trash can liner. They each have a set of steel pots, 1 litre and 2 litre, all as black as coal because they don't have a stove and are cooking over an open fire, which explains the fold-up metal grate they have taken turns carrying, strapped to the outside of their packs. They have a water filter and 2 water filter straws that they say they found in the Springer Mountain shelter. The filter doesn't work and the filter straws never have worked. Their only maps are pages torn from a Rand McNally road atlas for Georgia and North Carolina. For reading material, they have 4 pounds of religious stuff. They share a 4-person tent that weighs exactly 9.5 pounds and must be 10 years old, but smells like 20. Pirate takes an academic interest in their sleeping bags, which, at 5+ pounds each, remind him of the bag he'd been issued in Vietnam 35 years ago. They don't have sleeping pads. Rather unexpectedly, a funny thing happens when I try to teach them something about their gear. They listen for maybe 15 seconds, and then their attention, as though by reflex, just fixes itself to something else, anything else. They stare right through me, slack-jawed, the way a dog does when you've got a bone in your hand. They give me the feeling that I could sing and dance without their noticing. For instance, I try to tell them that sleeping pads help regulate body temperature. They work like insulation in a house, I say, and without them, your body heat will get sucked into the earth. They listen to this and nod, and I think we might be getting somewhere. But a moment later, as I try to continue, it happens again. They just change the channel. Brandon scratches his head and turns to stare at women's footwear. Braden yawns and studies the grain of the floorboards. After a 3-hour, yes, 3-hour shakedown, I feel something like embarrassment, as though I'd been talking to myself all afternoon. I ask them to think about what we've discussed. This is a pretty generous word for our peculiar interactions, and decide what they want to work on solving first. They have an answer for me. Brandon pushes some change across the counter for his candy bar and says with a glazed look in his eyes, "You know, Mr. Porter, we've been thinking about it. I think our gear has been working okay. The only thing we could really use is a pocket knife. How much would that cost?" Braden scoots in a little closer to his brother and nods in agreement while tearing into his packet of Skittles. "We can address weaponry later," I say. "For now, let's stay focused on keeping you alive in these woods." It is difficult not to get angry at the earnest stupidity of these boys. It is 28 degrees outside, and they've got a few pair of blue jeans. Our hostel is saving their lives even as we speak. A new pocket knife is the least of their worries, and I'm still not convinced that they're old enough to buy one without their mother's consent. Besides, they have no money, and that's why we're talking about power tools. Our mum gave us $20 when she dropped us off at Amicalola, and I found a few coins on the trail, Braden told me 2 days ago. What they need is clothing, better sleeping bags, a more reliable tent, and some non-carry-on backpacks, or a bus ticket home, wherever home is. "Winton, phone," Buddy hollers, and he hands me the phone. "Some guy named Ego." I grab the phone immediately. "Lego, did you get him moving?" "Yeah," Lego shouts. "We got him moving. We're down here at Unicoi, and the guy's still refusing help. There must be 6 rescue vehicles here, and one of the biggest damn rescue helicopters I ever seen. I never seen one with wings on it." "What? Winton? What? You there? I have a bad..." Lefty survived. What I later found out was that rescue managed to convince him to get into the ambulance, which took him to the hospital where he was treated for hypothermia. From there, he was released or escorted or expelled into North Carolina. The biggest helicopter Lego had ever seen was Emory University Hospital's multi-million-dollar Sikorsky S-92, dispatched all the way from Atlanta, evidently in the belief that the rescuers will have to deal with a trauma victim. As for the trauma victim, well, there's a chance that the misunderstanding began with me when I told the emergency operator that the victim was missing his right hand. Imagine the telephone game. Missing his right hand, lost his right hand, a bear took his arm off. Next time, if there is a next time, I'll use the word amputee. In the end, Lefty was off the mountain, alive and now out of the state of Georgia. The cost to the people of White County, the county that finally rolled snake eyes for the vagabond's rescue and state line extradition, was estimated at more than $35,000. We talked about that number in the shop for weeks, comparing estimates. Margie did some research and found out that White County could have bought Lefty a new prosthetic hand for less than $15,000. Buddy suggested a Greyhound bus ticket to New Jersey for less than $100. "Not that he'd last long in Jersey," Buddy added. Outside, the flame azalea, purple spiderwort, and white mountain laurel are opening back up to enjoy the afternoon sun. Temperatures have shot into the 50s and the snow has melted away completely from the stone walkways, the parking lot and the roads. At the higher elevations, along the northern slopes of the trail and in the shaded areas of Top Blood Mountain, it may last one more day. Braden is playing with Alison in the front garden, trying to help her salvage the remains of a small, melting snowman. I'm on the front walkway, helping her hike a load up, watching Alison's tender efforts where I can. Braden comes up to me from behind. "Excuse me, Mr. Porter, we spoke to our mum, and she said it would be all right to work here for a few days, but she did want to talk to you first. Here's her cell phone number. You can call her any time." I thank him and tell him I'll call in a few minutes. Reading the phone number in my hand, I suddenly realise how little we know about these kids. Their accents tell us they're from the south. Their gear tells us they don't know what they're doing. But we don't even know their last name. We asked them for it once. Braden replied that their father worked for Homeland Security, and that's why they couldn't tell us. We didn't ask again. I step into the back room of the store and make the call. A woman answers. "Hello, this is Winton Porter from Mountain Crossings. You asked me to call you." "Oh yes, I sure did. So happy to get a chance to finally talk with you. My name is Caroline Patterson. The twins said you have been really nice to them. Thank you. Bless you. Bless your heart." She has a rich southern tone in her voice. I imagine a big woman with big hair, wearing a yellow flowered sundress, sitting in a rocker on a front porch, sipping sweet tea and listening to gospel music. I turn up my own accent a few notches to gain her confidence. "Thank you, ma'am. I do appreciate that. I've truly enjoyed having these boys around the shop over the past week. But, ma'am, I really got to be honest with you. If these boys keep on this trail with all the junk they have on their backs, then they're going to get hurt out there. Now, we've managed to find several $100s in used gear and equipment that will fix most of the problems, but they still need about $400 in new gear and clothing to make it right. I've told them that they could do some yard work around the shop and earn some credit for the equipment, but apparently they need your permission first." "It's okay with me," she says. "How are they doing? Are they taking the medications?" Outside, Alison throws a handful of slush at Braden and laughs when it splatters in his face. I have no idea if he's taking his medications.